sport today. Hope everybody's having a great time in the world wherever you are. It's Sunday afternoon here in Brisbane, just gone after 1:30 I think, and as you can see on the screen, I'm in the middle of working on a livery, and I wanted to start this broadcast mainly because I've had a few people that have been chatting with me who have commented that creating liveries is hard and that the livery editor tool within the game is not easy to use, not easy to control, not easy to manipulate. And I'm certainly not here to say that it's perfect. I'm certainly not here to say that it's a piece of cake, which is a metaphor for it being easy. But the tool is quite good, and I guess what I wanted to do today is kind of prove that in some way. So what I've been doing is, if you have a look at the front of this Maserati, and thanks to my friend Whitman, who has made me think about doing a Maserati, because he recently did a Zenda, I think it is, Zegna or Zenda or Zedna, something like that, livery, which is a copy of I think a race car, but I'm not 100% sure, so apologies to Whitman for if I'm getting it wrong. Anyway, and I thought to myself, what could I do with this car if I'm going to do a livery? And obviously that grille is both historically significant for Maserati, but it also dominates the vehicle. If you consider that the front of the car is what most people identify a motor car with, and I think most do, that grille is definitely a statement. It's dominating. If you look at that as a one-dimensional plane, it's probably taking up 30% of that total front vista, if you like. So it's very prominent, and I thought, okay, well, so what do I do with this car? And I'm still in two minds about what I am doing with it, but what I've started is emulating that on the side of the car. Now, it's not exactly to scale for anybody that's sitting there and saying, how did you work out how wide it is? In fact, I'm pretty confident that my version is wider. I'm also as confident that I'm not exact in terms of the height versus the width. But again, I'm dealing with a bigger surface here on the side of the car than is on the front. So you can clearly see there from the two pictures that my graphic or my decal is much higher. But the point is, I'm trying to highlight that you can actually do it. Now, I have been at it for roughly 3 hours doing this, and I'll tell you why, and in doing that I'll also be explaining how I feel the livery editor is quite good. So if I first look at the actual outline or the background, whichever term you're comfortable with, what you can see is there are three ellipsoid shapes or decals, and they are that's the top, that's the other side, I'll talk about that in a minute. That's your base, which is obviously the dark ring on the very outside. Then you've got your light highlight line, and if I zoom out, I was going to show you the middle of it, sorry. And then you've got your inner dark background, if you like, and to relate that back, that's just effectively the background inside the engine bay behind the grille. That's what that is emulating. So that was pretty quick to do. That only took, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes, so not hard to do. Just basically pick the shape, which you can see from the decal. It's the squarish shape in shapes, but with a more rounded edge rather than a pointy edge on each corner, or rounded corners I should say. That was the easy part. Then the next part came doing the vertical, I'll call them slats, or ribs, whichever term you're comfortable with. I'll call them slats. And that wasn't that hard either. I took an approximation on the width and basically grabbed the vertical straight line shape and made it fit at the start or at the end, so at number 1 right there, or decal number 4, and basically then went about duplicating them. And as I did that, I just basically used my eyes to get the difference in the gaps as I went along. Now, for those of you who are looking at this and going, wow, his ability to align lines with equal gaps is pretty impressive, because those gaps look identical to the human eye. However, I am not that good. I go okay, but I'm certainly nowhere near as accurate as a machine or as consistent as a machine. So by the time I got to about number, I think that's number 8, I zoomed out a bit. I'm in here like this doing the gaps, and I zoomed out and I had a look, and I could see that the gaps weren't consistent. And I thought, well, this is not going to look good if the gaps aren't consistent. So, one of the great things that you can do in this game, because you have the ability to effectively manipulate every object and every shape that you can add to the car, apart from logos, let me make that clear. Logos and brand names that you get straight out of the library, you can't manipulate them in every way. Logos that you get from the Discover library, however, you usually can. Anyway, so the red stick that you see there, which I will just go and grab, I effectively got another straight vertical line from shapes, and I grabbed it, and I decided, righto, what am I going to have as my widths? And then when I did that, now I'm not in line yet, so just bear with me. There we go. In fact, that's not right either. There you go. And I went, okay, here we go. And so I then used that and moved it along each point, getting the gap right, then duplicating the vertical line, adding it from the left side, scrolled it across to the right side, and then I had my gaps and just proceeded along the way of doing that. Now you might think, oh yeah, okay, that's going to take a little bit of time, but not a lot of time. Why is he 3 hours into this and all he's done is that and that? So I went through that process, completed it, and there's a saying here in Australia when it comes to tradesmen or builders or carpenters, which is about measure twice and cut one, which basically means that if you're trying to build something, it's critical that where you've got multiple objects or elements or pieces, that you measure them out correctly before you start building, otherwise you're going to end up with a mess. Now, I didn't do it. I looked at the grill and went, oh yeah, there's lots. I'll just do lots. When I did the first set across this grill section, so from the left through to the right, I had, I think, approximately 30 or 32 lines, maybe even more. I didn't count them, but there were a lot. And I looked at it, and of course my red bar was thinner, just so in case you're wondering, the red bar was actually thinner. And I looked at it and I went, that's a lot of slats slash ribs. So I came around to the front of the Maserati grill and I counted them. Now, to save you the trouble, there's 19 there. 9 on either side of the trident icon or symbol in the middle. So I thought, okay, well, obviously I need to make some adjustments here. So I had to basically ditch every second line initially, which is fairly simple, just going down, and every second line I just went into the decal thing like this, and just went on every second one, hit that, hit delete, and away I went. I won't do it now obviously because I don't want to mess it up. And again, that didn't take too long at all. But then what I realized is in doing that, I didn't have the even number that matched the front grille. So obviously what I then needed to do was resize the gaps in between. Now, if any of you have sat there and counted all of the ribs slash slats on my decal right here, you will realize I'm still not correct. In fact, there are 20 grill slats here, whereas the proper grill has 19. But in the essence of saving time, I have decided to live with having 20, because if you look at that grill and you look at that grill, there's really not an obvious difference. So I'm comfortable with me having 20 if it means I can keep it as it is, keep the widths all the same. And for those of you who do want to know where it's different, I didn't put that red bar there on purpose, that's just coincidental, but it's here. And the difference, to be totally accurate for you all, is that's the alignment at that end. Let's take it to the other end and you'll see the difference. All of the edge line will be visible. So that's the difference. I don't know what we're talking in terms of actual screen difference or in the actual physical difference of the car. It might be in the car's shape of things, it might be a 3-4 millimeter difference, 5 millimeter difference. Not enough for me to be worried about. So yeah, so went with that. And again, it is a bit more time because I had to redo it. So that's effectively why. And then the next step was duplicating it. Now, if I go back into the list, the layer list. Now what I could have easily done is just copied it, copy across from the other side to this side. And it would have worked and everything would have looked exactly the same. However, my recommendation is that whenever you are creating a livery and there is something what I will call fiddly, or something that you do have to devote a bit of time to, later on if you ever have to make changes or if you want to adjust it, your life will be so much easier if you actually separate out, particularly when you're doing multiples like this, where you're having it on the left side and the right side of the car, or the front or the back. My advice is absolutely separate it all out when you're doing it, and that way it's really simple. I've got, this is the other side, so if I spin around, the crosshair is going to go around to the other side, and there it is. It's the base, or the outside ring, it's the middle ring, and then the center or inner ring. And then, bang, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Simple. If I have to go and do anything, if I have to retrace my steps, it's very, very easy for me to do. Now, you may have noticed that I don't have a red bar over this side. Why? Because when you use the duplicate feature, it will duplicate it accurately. So that image that you see there of that combined decal is identical. So that's why no red bar over here. If I had to make particular changes to that side for some reason, then of course yes, I would create a red bar. And again, I've used red because in the scheme of the colours of this car, red was the most obvious one. But if this was a red car, you would use white or you would use black. If it was a green car, you might use red again, or you might use a yellow. Just, you know, a colour that is going to let you easily define where two edges meet each other or one goes behind the other, because obviously this is a layer based protocol when you're designing liveries and adding shapes in the game. So that's where I'm at, and if I can just do a quick demonstration of how easy it is, I'm going to make, where am I going to do it? Let's do it on the bonnet. I know I'm in the middle of doing something here. Oh, before I do, let me just touch off on one last thing. Where are you? Just want to move this out of the way, sorry. Okay. Now, if I go back to rib number 1 or slat number 1, which is decal number 4. Now, what you'll notice is that's got a different colour, but you'll also see that there is a line above it. So the next phase in completing this decal so it does look like the grill is to give it the same visual cue or appearance. And if you look closely, what you'll see there is there's a shiny or a polished front, but then a plain or a matte or a flat look or appearance to the rest of each rib. So the idea of me doing this with that second decal vertical line is to create that same effect, so that from a distance it'll look shiny, albeit that you cannot, in the livery, as I've said in previous broadcasts, so I'm not going to harp on it, you cannot emulate a silver in the livery. You know, it's one of probably very few things I've asked of the polyphony graphic designers when it comes to these tools, is if they could actually create a silver. And I get that it's extremely hard because silver is effectively a tone of grey and white, so very hard to emulate. But obviously it's a silver car, so it can be done. But going into the palette, if I do that, I'm not going to play around with this. If I click on that, sorry, it's a combination between white and silver, white and red I should say. You can see that's very white, that's very grey. Trying to find a silver that's truly a silver is virtually impossible. Now, I'm sorry, I'm just going to grab here and slide it up. So if I slide it up, okay, I get what looks like a silver until you put it against something. And what I should really do is I should just add a let me add an object, sorry. Let's go to the top so it's out of the way. And I'll add it on the bonnet, actually. Get right out of there, and I'll go to bonnet. It's probably better because that way we get that straight down visual look. Okay. We'll make it a big chunky thing so it's easy to see. Alright, okay, colour palette. Okay, so that's where we were before. Move the cursor to near where I was before, which I think was somewhere around there. Okay, and we can begin. So, for those of you not familiar with the colour palette, this field box here, where it's 0, actually controls the horizontal movement of the plane up here between the rainbow, if you like, or colour spectrum. This item here controls the horizontal movement across. So if I start tapping, I know it's at 2. If I start tapping, it's going to move from left to right. There you go. Go back to 2 so we remain where we were. And this, as it might suggest, is V for vertical, which is going to move it up and down the box. Voila. I think it was 56, I think. Didn't pay attention, but anyway, it's close enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly jump back out because I want to zoom in a bit closer on the silver. Bear with me. I'll just move to the side so we can see it, and then I'll go back into colour palette. Now, obviously it's moved again because I didn't stay in the box. That was pretty close. I think we were at 2 and I think we're at 2, were we not? And 56. Yep, so here we go. We can see on the bonnet there is a colour, but it's darker. So let's try to make it lighter. Getting close. Getting closer. Now, I don't know if anybody's noticing, but we've kind of gone past. And this is what I mean about it being incredibly hard to match the colour. Some people may go, oh, make it darker that way. Okay. Is that a better look? I don't know. See how it's lighter? So if I go the other way, it's very hard to get a match. I'll go a bit higher, watch. Now it's starting to see how it's starting to look white. You compare it to the edge on the left, it looks quite white. If you look to the right, it's lighter but not as bad. So trying to find a match is very, very hard. If I bring that forward, it'll just make it more red. See the redness coming out? So really our plane is pretty much 4. Once you get past 4, and I can even see a tinge of red in that. Don't know if you can, but I can. In fact, the red's not yet really removed, but it's probably livable in that one, because we've gone up higher on the vertical. But you can see what I mean. If I'm trying to match the silver paint on any object that's of any size, I'm just struggling. No matter how much time I spend trying to get close to it. I can still see too much red in that. Just, I don't know if anybody else can, but I can. That's 1. If I go back to 0, then I'm just too dark. Not quite right. What you're trying to do is get to a point where the lines around the box and the background paint itself are almost indistinguishable. And so far we haven't really gotten close. Go all the way just for the sake of it, you get white. Go back to 90, he's still white. That's where you start to get into the realms of the silver look there at 80. And at 70, I know, people, what do you think? Yeah. I hope you're seeing this as clearly as I am, and I hope you're understanding that it is incredibly difficult matching a silver on the silver background. Now, let's do an exercise here. Alright, I'm going to keep that on my bonnet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that if you're matching silver on silver, it is extremely hard, as you've just witnessed. However, if I add another object, same type of object, make it bigger, I'll move it underneath so that it's behind the silver, and I make that object red. Okay, now I might shrink it down just a little bit for the sake of this exercise. can you tell the difference between that silver now and the silver everywhere else? If I do that, yes you can, because it's not exactly the same colour, but up above it is. So you're making your livery and you go, yep, I need some silver, and you do your colour palette thing and you go, yep, okay, I'm almost there. We'll go back in, we'll have a bit of a play with it from this angle. Ah, silly me, forget how I just did that. I think it's that one. Now if I go there, it should already be there. 1 and 67. Now, I can make it a bit deeper. And you go, oh yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to select it, hit OK, and we've created it. Now what? Still not right, is it? Go down to select the new one. Go to colour palette. Try again. Oh, hang on a minute, it's starting to look better, isn't it? It's pretty close. That looks pretty close. It looks a bit dark to me. I don't know, what do people think? I'll go one more to prove it. Alright, you're thinking that looks pretty good. Let's see. It's too dark. So, what do we do here? First thing to do is to grab it and go from it. I don't have the answer, because however the game designers have done it with the actual paint itself, in the livery tool it unfortunately doesn't seem to translate. So there, I've got a lighter colour there, but I'm still not right. So if a person's looking at it and not moving their view of it, I mean, that is not right. You can clearly see it's not right, but if I had it where the tone was correct before, you know, that's okay, provided they're only looking at it from that angle. But if they drive the car around, or they looking from outside and they see that on the bonnet, and they go, what's going on here? You've messed up. And that is the dilemma with trying to do silver. I just wanted to share that. It was a bit of a distraction. So, to my point, that outline just there that I've done, I will do for each grill bit, both both the left side and the right side. But the reality is, I cannot get silver, and in the general colour palette, I have not figured out a way to emulate a chrome finish either. So that is the best you can do, and you just have to live with it. And if you're doing silver as a colour, as your base colour for a car, you have to make sure that you get very precise with all the other decal bits that you create, because if you don't get them right, it's very hard for you to put a little, what I call a little patch in the base colour of the car to hide or disguise that error or little imperfection in your decal, your lines, the way they connect, the widths, the angles, whatever it might be. So, anyway, so that is how you can make something out of nothing using the livery editor tool. Obviously, keep watching, or if you're a Gran Turismo Sport player, look out for photos of this car when it's done, and you should see the finished product. I won't keep the broadcast going while I work through that. The one thing that I will share is that I'm in two minds about what this vehicle will be. Part of me is considering using this as a backdrop decal for it being a police car. Some of you will go, what? But why not? Why not a police car? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'll see what else I want to do with the car and the lines, and I haven't talked about any of that today, but maybe if I can for 3 or 4 minutes, just talk a bit about it now. And this is really about me and the way I go about doing a livery. Excuse me, sorry, my throat's a bit choky. I believe that the idea of the car livery and the intention of putting a car livery tool into the game is so that people could do, or players could do, 2 or 3 things. The first is so that they could individualize their car to make it unique, to make it truly their car. The second thing, I believe, was to give us all a choice, so that if we didn't like the standard red Ferrari or the standard blue BMW or the standard silver Mercedes or the standard, I don't know, white Toyota. Try not to be too harsh on Toyota by saying white, but I think it's a fair fact that lots of people that buy Toyotas buy white ones. Anyway, so that if you didn't want that, you didn't have to. You could change it. And not only change it, but change the shade of the white or the red or the blue or the black or the... Well, I'm going to exclude silver, even though you've seen that you can change the colour of silver. And then the third thing, and I truly, truly believe this, is that in the same way that a manufacturer brings out, if you like, versions or editions, or creates accessory packs, or creates limited models, they themselves repackage the way the car looks from the standard. I can rattle off probably at least half a dozen examples. With BMW, it's the Motorsport or the M Sport versions, the CSs, etc. For Ferrari, the Speciales, for example, is one example. For Mercedes, it's the AMGs. For Lamborghinis, it's the GTs or the SVs. For Porsche, it's the CSs or the S's. Who else do I need to name? Even Toyotas, the Toyotas of the world. Even them themselves bring out limited editions or sport versions. Every manufacturer has a sporting line or a limited edition line or an accessory pack that you can buy, and every one of those cars has something different on the outside of the exterior, whether it just be a very humble pinstripe down the side of the car or very small lip spoiler on the boot lid. Doesn't matter what it is. Every vehicle manufacturer that is of any weight does it. Hyundai, Daewoo, Kia, they've all been doing it as well in the last 5 to 7 years. So even your, if you like, your budget or your lower end emerging brands from Korea are doing this. I don't know the Chinese manufactured vehicles that well yet to make a comment, but I dare say, given that the Chinese copy everything else that's going on, it's highly likely that they are also copying with regards to them widening the model list by doing limited editions or sport models or packs, whatever it might be. So I truly believe that the game creators also wanted us all to enhance the standard vehicle, because as you can see at this moment in time, none of the manufacturers are listing out specialized versions. They're all they're all what you would call the base standard delivery models. There's no BMW CSs, there's no Ferrari Speciales, there's no AMG GTRs, there's no as far as I know, Nissan GTR N1s, for example. So you just get the base model. So, having said all that, for those people who I run into in car shows who turn around and say, when they are judging vehicles and somebody were to rock up in this Maserati, sans the decals that I've done on the side and on the bonnet, and they just rock up in this car, which is the bog standard vehicle obtained via Brand Central within the game without one thing being done to it, and somebody enters it into a car show and they say, yep, you're the winner, that's a great looking car, that's a great livery. Well, it's not. It's the same vehicle that 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million Gran Turismo Sport players could have gone into Brand Central and grabbed in 10 seconds. So it's not a livery. And so when they judge them and they turn around and they say that somebody that's done something like I've done here, which is not yet finished, so let's be clear, I haven't finished the livery on this. I don't even know if I'm going to stay with this colour. But the point is, what I am doing is I am making the car unique because it's mine. Nobody else in the game will have it unless I share it, and those of you who watch my broadcasts know that I very rarely share my liveries because I believe that sharing liveries makes players, for want of a better term, lazy. If a livery is sitting there and they like the look of it, why wouldn't they download it instead of creating their own individual livery? So for me, I feel that by not sharing many of my liveries, I'm not being part of the problem. It's kind of like going to the beach and hearing people complain about seagulls being everywhere and they're trying to eat and the seagulls are flying around them. And then when they finish eating, they've got leftover food, and so they throw it to the seagulls. And then they wonder why, when they go to the beach the next time, the seagulls are hanging around as soon as they try to eat something. Anyway, seagulls are an ocean-faring bird, for those of you who don't know what seagulls are. And here in Australia, and I'm sure in many other parts of the world, it is an issue that seagulls have become reliant on the throwaways of humans' meals at beaches, etc., as their primary food source, and it's not good for them anyway. In the same way, that's why I don't share. But if you don't make a livery and you don't make the car unique, then you shouldn't be given a reward or be told that your car is beautiful and certainly better than the vehicles that have had somebody take the time and effort to make them unique. They can say that looks nice, but to turn around and say that that vehicle deserves a prize above somebody that's actually created a livery in a car show is a nonsense. Because here's the thing about a standard vehicle. It's everywhere in the game. It's in all the races. It's people driving around doing cruises, doing role plays, competing in championship-like replications, etc. And it is as it is. That's the bog standard vehicle. A car show is about somebody creating a livery. And again, I go back to the definition. A livery is somebody taking a bog standard car like this Maserati and adding something to it. Not changing the wheels, not changing the colour. That is a change. It's not an addition. And if you're changing it, that's great, but every single other player can also change it in the game, therefore creating a million more examples of that same vehicle with the same changes. It's not unique. It's just changed from the standard way it came out of the game from Brand Central with maybe a different wheel to it, and you've changed the colour. But you haven't added to it. A livery is an addition to the vehicle. And car shows are about people showing how they have created a truly unique car through making additions such as decals, such as colour tints, such as patterns, such as lines, such as even trying to trick you with some of the decals that make you think that that car has widened wheel arches or rust or a second door. One of my friends has created a second door on a US car that's a two-door coupe, and he's created lines that make it look like it has a second door or rear door or rear door access. So that is truly what a livery is. It's not just changing the paint and flicking a different set of wheels on it and going, oh, look at that, I've created a livery. No, you haven't. You've just gone and grabbed a different colour paint and grabbed one of the wheels available and put them in as changes, not as additions. Okay. Hope everybody makes sense of that. I hope if you are a Gran Turismo Sport player and you do go in the game and you do create your own liveries and you see somebody in a car show lobby talking about this particular issue, you will also comment and let them know that that's not a livery, that they haven't put anything additional onto the car. And if they want to compete in a car show, that's what they need to do. And I hope if you're watching this broadcast and you don't do liveries, that you just do go in and you create a changed car with different paint and different wheels, that you now understand what the difference is between a true car livery and a standard car in the game. And I hope that you'll also go into the livery editor and you will try to create your own unique car. And if you're watching this broadcast and you've never created your own livery and you've always downloaded your liveries, and I have never downloaded a livery. Now, sorry, I will correct myself. I downloaded one livery, not by choice, but I was competing in Race on Oz or Rooz, and you can look up their website, rooz.com.au, rooz.com.au, and I was competing. And in that league, that racing league, they have teams that compete in a team championship, and you get assigned to a team in each season. And that team decided it wanted to have its own team livery, and that makes sense if you think about it. Racing teams have the same liveries. So for me to have to compete in that racing series, I had to download that livery to compete in the series. So that is the only time I have ever downloaded a livery. So if you go into Photoscapes, or if you watch this broadcast and you see any of my cars, they're all mine. They're all my liveries. I do not download them. So for those of you who don't, please try. Please try to create your own livery rather than download one. And for those that are starting out in the tool, remember these three key things. The first is that every single person that creates liveries, even if they happen to be regarded as supreme masters of doing it, they all started at the very same spot that you're about to start, the beginning, with no experience, no knowledge, only a desire to try and make a livery. And they made 1, then they made 3, then they made 10, then they made 30, then they made 100, etc. And that's how they got better. They learned from experience, they learned from mistakes. Now, let me tell you about that. I am going to get out of this and save this because I want to show you something. And this will highlight what I mean. Just bear with me while I do the name change. Absolutely suggest everybody does this when they're when they're creating a livery, by the way. Oh, forget my typing, it's terrible. Rename it, and unless you can come up with really specific names, oops, that's wrong. That should be Maserati 1, because I've got another one there that I haven't touched yet. This will take a little bit, maybe 2 to 3 minutes to save, and that's because of the number of liveries that I've already uploaded, which you have to do to then be able to use the liveries in the game. As you can see there, upload a completed design and you will be able to use it as a livery. Bang, so I have to do this. I'm not finished, but the reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you another car. In fact, I want to show you 2 cars, just to highlight the point about livery design. Okay, that was pretty quick actually in the scheme of things. Alright, so I'm going to get out of here, and what I'm going to do is 2 things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my garage. Now, for those of you who've been in here before, you know what I'm doing. I'm just basically looking to sort. I'm going to sort it by date acquired, which basically means the longer I've had the car, the further down the list it will be. So that black MR2 right there was the daily gift car I received this morning at 8:30 when I logged in. And so this is the history of the cars as I've acquired them, either as a gift car or I've bought them. For example, that one there I paid 20 million for, and I bought that, I don't know when, doesn't give you the dates. It'd be nice if it did. I don't know whether I can do that by changing the view. I haven't dug deep enough to find out. That's a gift car, that's a gift car, gift car, gift car, gift car, gift car. Most of these are gift cars. That I bought, and that's not finished yet. I won't talk about that yet because I'll be stealing the thunder of it. That I bought, that I bought, that I bought. But the majority of these are gift cars. Anyway, what I'm doing is I'm going down the bottom, and you'll see that there are, not all of these are custom liveries, guys, just to be clear. So you'll see a lot of standard paint schemes, and all that means is I've acquired the car as a gift car and I haven't bothered to create a livery, and I won't drive it if I don't have a livery. So if I were to do it on Ks, you'd see the bulk of these vehicles sitting right down the bottom with no Ks on them. Okay, anyway, I'm trying to get down to near to where I started, which will be down here somewhere. Okay. That was one of the first cars I got, but I only just recently did the livery, so I'm not going to flag that at this point. What I do want to do is I want to find this car. Now, as you can see, fairly early on in the piece, this car here was one of the first liveries that I ever did. By the way, the order of attaining the car doesn't also correlate to when I did the livery, just to be clear on that. This one here, for example, I only did that livery about 3 months ago, maybe not even. This one here is a revamped livery. I've had the car for a while, but I've only just revamped that livery and it's not finished yet. It's still in the works. This car, however, has retained its original livery. What I want to do is show it to you to point out a few things. Now this car also, in terms of its significance to me in this game, has the most kilometres on it of any of my cars. I have driven it further than I've driven anything else. Alright, so that's the car. What I want to do is want to preview. It's what I really want to do. Alright, change car. What I might have to do is do it through the livery editor. It's okay, we'll do it that way, sorry. Okay, there it is. Now, that's another design of the same model car, but they're two different cars, just to be clear on that. They're not the same car. But you can do multiple liveries on the one car. So for those of you who think, oh, I really love this particular car, but I can't afford to buy 5 of them, I've got to choose one livery and it's too hard. No, you can actually run multiple liveries on the one car, and I won't talk through that today, but I will do another broadcast soon and I'll talk through that as well. Anyway, so, to get to the point. Go to preview mode because that way I can control. Now, like I said, this was one of my earliest liveries. So let's talk about that as we look at the car. I guess my first question to everybody is, does it look like a complicated livery? For those of you who don't know anything about design, changing the wheel colour is basically a case of 3 clicks in the livery editor tool. When you get into wheels, there's a little paint icon. When you're in the wheels section, you click on it, it brings up the colour palette and all the special colours. You pick your colour, you click OK, bang, they're painted. So that gives you an idea of how easy that is. That front lip spoiler is one single strip in the livery editor shapes tools. You grab it as a horizontal tool. Well, okay, let's even do. I'm not going to save it, so it doesn't matter what I do. All right, so body, add layer, front, select the shapes, shape 1, and then there's the vertical line. Grab it, bring it down. I'll leave it in white. Oh, it's flashing because there's another color there already. Actually, no, it's flashing because this isn't actually the right section for me to be adding this, so let me get out of it. That is probably what's called other, so let me do that again. Other is other sections of the car. These are the sections of the car, body, and within the body you've got left, right, front, rear, roof. In bonnet it's just the bonnet. Side mirrors, self-explanatory. Rear wing, you can see the big rear wing. And then other. Other is other sections of the car, and they're usually things like the extra splitter at the front, or if it's a McLaren or a Lamborghini, the different, or an Audi R8 for example, the cowling around the rear duct into the rear or mid-engine engine bay on the side of the car. That would be an other item that you could paint differently to the rest of the car, as an example. Alright, so go into other and we do the same exercise again. It's front. I select shape, I select the horizontal. Now this time, when I come down to the green, it won't flash. See how it's not flashing? Because it's the other section. So if it flashes, that means you can't add the decal object that you want to add on that part of the car because you're in the wrong section of the car as far as those 5 or 6 areas or parts of the car that I just explained to you on the left hand side of the screen when we're in the other section. Alright, so then all I do to make it do what it's done along this line is I grab my L1 button, I grab my right joystick. I use the controller when I'm doing my liveries. I don't use my wheel. I certainly don't recommend anybody do that because it's not a great way of doing it. And then with my right joystick controller, I'm going to push it to the right, and what that's going to do is make it go wide across that part of the object. Now you'll see I'm not covering the whole object. That's because the line itself was only a certain width. Now with my finger still held on the L1 button, if I now push the joystick controller, the right joystick controller, forward or towards the L1 and R1 buttons at the back of the controller, it will get wider. Sorry, it's just going to have a bit of a play. So it's gotten wider now and it's filling in the rest of the space. Now it may not fill the whole lot out because again it divides it up. So see how that section there hasn't completed? That's okay, I can fix that very quickly. But as you can see, and then if I wanted to say, oh, I want a different colour, I want it to be red now, I want to go red with this car, I just pick the red I want. Bang, there it is. I've now got a red front lip spoiler. Okay, now to fix the sides, still stay in other, go to add layer, select left because we'll do the left side first and I'll show you another quick tip. Hit OK, pick the same object. See it's flashing up near the window, the driver door, flashing up there. That means you can't paint in that section of the car, right? Like I said before. Alright, bring it down to here. I'm moving faster than normal. Apologies. My tip there is when you're new at it, just do everything slowly so you don't lose things. Widen it, same way again, L1 button, right joystick up, hit OK, go to the colour palette or decal colour icon, hit it, colour palette. The colours that you check will always, or select I should say, will always be down here. So that's the green. That's a different green there, that's interesting. That's the one there, sorry, that I've been using. That's the red we just picked, hit that and OK, and we're done. Now rather than repeat that process for the other side, you don't need to. You've got two options. You can duplicate on reverse, which means it'll just exactly duplicate it, or if it's some kind of item that might have some certain angles on it, or you've manipulated the shape a certain way, you've got this option which is flip horizontally and duplicate, which means it will mirror what you've done. Alright, so I'll do that just to be safe, and bang, there you go, it's done. Alright, so that itself also was not hard to do. Alright, let's move to the next thing. Stripes on the bonnet. Now, what's the first thing you notice? The stripes are off center and they're also not of equal width. Did I do that on purpose? The honest answer is no. It was a mistake, it was an error, which I can easily fix if I want to. How did I do the stripes? Alright, let's do it. Let's make them in red. Bonnet is the section we want. I'm going to add a layer. Actually, sorry. It's not an error, it's a pattern shape. I'm pretty sure. If I click on that, yeah, it'll all move together if I move it. And moving, by the way, moving objects, you don't touch any of the L buttons or R buttons. You basically grab your left joystick and move it in the four directions that you can move an object. So pulling your left joystick to the left will move it left, pulling it to the right will move it right, pushing your left joystick forward will push the object forward as you see it on screen, pulling your left joystick backwards towards you will pull the object towards you. Okay, so if I do a movement like now, you can see it's all moving as one. That's because it's a pattern, and I can show you that. Let's go to patterns, and that there is probably it, I think. Pretty sure it is. Yeah, pretty sure it's that pattern. If it's not that pattern, there might be one in here, but I doubt it, because these are all faders. Yeah, these are similar patterns but with a fade, a paint fade, as you can see on the edges. So yeah, so it's a pattern. Now let's say I don't want that pattern anymore. Let's say I want straight lines and I want to play around with them. So I take my line. Now when it first hits the screen, it will be centered on whatever the surface is or object that you're doing it in. So for example on bonnet, if I discard that and then add it again, oops, wrong one, my bad. Trying to go too fast. That one's what I want. So it is automatically in the middle of the bonnet, and if you want to prove that, it's pretty simple to do. Don't do it too fast, but just pull your joystick down, let it come, and bang, look at that. It is perfectly aligned in the center of the bonnet, assuming again that the Porsche badge would be perfectly aligned in the center of the bonnet, which we can all be confident that it is, and away you go. So I want the line to go the full length of the bonnet, so L1, right joystick, pushing it away from me. Don't worry about the flashing bit at the front, it's not going to affect it, but that's showing you again how this line that you're applying can only be applied to the bonnet and not to the front nose of the vehicle. Now, if I was annoyed at that, I could shorten it up and just move it up, shorten it up till the flashing disappears. And so there you go, that's the end of it there. And now I just fit it properly. Alright, there it is, it's there. Okay, now, you might not want a single line. You might want to have multiple lines. Okay, now, let's say I want multiple lines and I've decided I want them to be narrower. I can do two things. I can narrow this line first, and the way that I do that is, again, I select L1. With my right joystick, I'm now going to push it to the left, because that's going to shrink it, like so. If I want it to be wider, I do the opposite. So L1 held, right joystick, pulling it to the right. Now here's a tip for you as well. I'm looking at it from this direction. If I look at it from this direction and I do the same instruction with my controller, I'm going to get a different result, because the game's interpreting me as now having moved around from the way it's been programmed to address that object in terms of the way I can manipulate it. So if I do the exact same thing as I just did then, making it wider by holding L1 and pushing the joystick to the right, now that I'm on this side, doing the same thing is actually going to shorten the object, not widen it or narrow it. Alright, so I've moved around, I hit my L1 button now, I grab my right joystick controller and I pull it to the right, and it will make the line go shorter again, not narrower, but shorter. Oh, it's made a liar out of me. Normally it does the opposite. Why is it not doing that? That's interesting. Normally does. Okay, bizarre. I'll get back to you on that, because normally it's what it does. One other tip. Now, I've been telling you to hold the L1 button when moving right or left. Now, the reason for that is that holding the L1 button effectively dictates to the game that you only want the object to change its form in that one dimension, i.e. width in this case, because we're talking about making it narrower or making it wider. Now, if I shorten it, just to show you, and I take my finger off the L1 button, so it's off the button now, and I do the right, moving it to the right again, watch what happens. See how the object is actually changing in both dimensions, not just in the dimension of width, but in the dimension of length as well. So, the L1 button prevents that, so I put the L1 button back on, and it'll stay that length, but it'll just get narrower again. Okay, so that's a tip as well. Again, all of these controls are not hard to master. They're not hard to remember. If you're playing any kind of first-person game, like a shooting game, you will master this in 5 seconds, because you are already used to multiple uses of your hand controller at the one time. So this is not a stretch for people who are in that space. If you're not a first-person gamer, It won't take you long to get used to it, even if you've only ever used your steering wheel to drive this particular game. Okay, so getting back to the exercise. I'm trying to do a stripe. Alright, now, it may not be in the middle anymore, but I think it is. Yep, it's still good. Now, as I said, let's say we want thin stripes. We want to do something... No, actually, let's say we want to do a wide stripe in the middle, but then have pinstripes either side of it. Alright, now, you could go and grab another shape and try to line it up, but you don't need to. If I hit OK, which is the X button as you can see, I've got some options here. Left directional controller there is what I use, but you can use your joystick. If I select this, it gives me options. I can flip the object both vertically and horizontally. I can duplicate it, or I can duplicate it on reverse, as I said. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate it. Now I'm just going to move it to the left. I'm not doing anything else except moving it at this stage. Then I've got my second line. I can play around with the gap that I want, but I want to make this line thinner, as I said. So L1, pull the joystick to the right joystick to the left until I get it to the width I want. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to bring it back in, pushing the L left joystick over to the object till I get the gap that I want. Okay, that looks pretty good. At the moment, I'm kind of happy with that. Now, if I want to replicate that on the other side, again, duplicate on reverse. This works on the bonnet, on the roof, going from the left side of the car to the right side of the car. Where it doesn't work is front to rear. I don't know why, I just know that it doesn't work. So if you're doing something on the front that you want on the back, bad news is you have to you have to do that. So we've got somebody online. Can you hear me okay? Can you shoot me a message if you can? Oh, they've gone. Oh. Yeah, sorry. I don't know who it was, I didn't see, but somebody just joined the broadcast. I apologise. I get so caught up in what I'm doing and what I'm saying that I really do lose track of looking at the sidebar on my screen that shows me if somebody's joined the broadcast and they've left a comment. My apologies. Anyway, back to what we're saying. So, I duplicated on reverse, and bang, there it is. Alright, now we've been going with the red theme, right? So let's continue that, just for the sake of... Now, in an ideal world, I would have changed the colour before I duplicated. That's another easy tip for you. If you know what colour it is you want an object to be before you start duplicating, if you want the duplicates to be the same colour, just change them. Pick the colour before you do it is what I mean. Alright, so there you go. Now it looks a bit funny because I've still got the other stripe there, because remember I'm not removing it at this stage. I'm still deciding whether I do want to keep it or whether I want to go with this stripe combination instead. But there you go, that's how easy it is to do a stripe. I don't think anybody watching this broadcast or seeing this video for the first time is going to say, wow, that was complicated, I don't think I can do that. Okay, let's go to the side mirrors, which I've just noticed I haven't... Okay, interesting. Okay, so the mirrors, what you might be able to notice there on this vehicle is there's a colour fade applied, where you can see, if I get in closer, you can see that the green fades out to the base black on the edge of the... And you go, wow, that looks pretty tricky, how did you do that? Well, again, it's not tricky. See these objects here? They are fade objects in the decal library. If I go to the decal library, I can show you those. It's in shape 2, and those particular items are one of these three here. So that one, or that one. The differences between the two, if you haven't picked up, is just the amount of solid base colour as a percentage of the decal. So starting from this one, I don't know if you can see it, but hopefully you can. There's only a little bit of the solid colour before it begins to fade. This one has a bit more. You can see kind of that line. I can't move my joystick. Oh yes I can. Right there. You can see where the solid line ends basically, and then the fade starts. Whereas on this one, it's kind of like up here, where that one's the full half circle. And then if we go to this one, you'll see effectively a line right there, which is showing you not only a full circle's worth but a little bit more before the fade starts to happen. So they're the three different fade options for that particular shape that I picked. So I'll go back now to the car. So all it is a case of grabbing that, or maybe I should do it. Sorry, let me grab one and I'll do it. So grab the item, there it is, you can see it there in white. Leave it in white until you're finished with it. Now, as you can see at the moment, what it's going to do is exactly what I've done with the mirror, is it's going to fade it from the, if you like, the inside of the mirror closest to the vehicle to the outside of the mirror furthest away from the vehicle, or as we look at it from left to right. Now, you've got to cover the whole mirror, so again you use the same principle, your L1 button and your right joystick, and you're pushing it up to give you the width of the mirror. So that's the width of the mirror, and then all you do is hold your L1 button again to keep that width and push it to your right to drag it out, like so. You got the whole mirror covered. Hang on, missing a bit at the front there, we'll get that. Now what I might have to do is pull it in a bit to get the fade. See how on the right hand side you can see the fade becoming more increased? You know, and I can do it to the point that I get full black, or in this case it'll be full green because there is a green coat behind it. And I can stretch that again if I want to, so I'm stretching it to get it to the exact point that I want to have the fade at. And then I just select the colour I want, which in this case is red. It looks yellow, but that's because of the green behind it, just so you're clear. And I can't remove that, but I can. What I can do is I can illustrate it on a black surface. Maybe that's a better idea. I'm going to leave that there for now. I'm going to go to the left hand side of the car. Well, let's go to the bonnet. You're familiar with the bonnet. I'm going to add a layer. It's going to be that exact same object, and I chose the earliest one. You can see it there. I'm going to spin it round, and I'll make it red. Oops. And there you go. Alright, so if I then manipulate that shape, make it straight. Now, you can see how the fade works. So you've got very solid red at the top, then it begins to fade and fade and fade until eventually you get back to your base colour of black. And I've stretched that out so it makes it longer. If I bring it back in, or if I just drag it, it's going to go wider and it's going to change the relativity of the fade as well. And so that's how you can, and if I, to give it I guess a bit of, let me just do this, let me do the whole bonnet. Whoops. Cover the whole bonnet first, that's the tip. Now, you go, well it's not really fading, well it is, but not much, but that's because I'm not finished. Now I'm going to move it up. So all I'm doing is pushing the left joystick up. And there's my fade. Now if I want to make that longer, stretch it out a bit, that'll make it more gradual. More gradual fade now. Don't know if you can see that. So there you go. So that's the fade capability. Well, I call it fade. I don't know what they call it. Transition, maybe they call it. I don't know. Again, you can see the outside parts flashing. Again, to let you know that the paint won't apply itself to those areas. But it's not flashing solid in the middle. It's staying solid. So that's the fade tool. So again, it's not hard to do that either. What does that leave? Lettering. Okay. The rear is exactly the same principle as the front lip spoiler, so I'm not going to talk about that. The rear wing, you can actually paint that in the master paint all section, where it gives you the option to choose a different colour rear wing to the rest of the body if you select it, but you can also do it afterwards. My advice is, if you want the rear wing to have a different colour to the body and you're painting the total car, do it in that section, because the game will do it much better than you can. For me to sit here and try and do those edges and those surfaces, I could do it, but it would take a lot of time mucking around. So choose it in the game, in the paint all section, which I'm happy to show you. It's near the before you get out to save. Okay, so lettering is the last part here of what I've done in this car. And before I start the lettering, I think you'll agree that it's not a complex livery at all. I will show you another car, two cars, but this is not a complex livery. This is a very, very simple livery. I don't know whether you think it's boring. The reason for showing you is to show you that when I first started, I was no genius with it. I had limited capability, and I did limited things because of that. But I'd like to think that, obviously it looks a bit funny with the red bits on it, but if you were to see this car driving around, even with the small bits that I've done, you would firstly agree that it's unique. You would secondly, I hope, agree that what I've done is enhanced it. More than just putting coloured wheels on it. Yeah, some people may say, no, it looks horrible. That's okay. Everybody's idea of what is attractive is different. But I like to think that the colour combination is effective. Okay, lettering. Now, I haven't touched the number plates. We can talk about doing them as lettering as well, which I usually do. These days, very rarely, if a car's got a number plate, does it not get a unique number plate from me again. It's all about having a bit of fun. So the lettering is quite easy. In the body section, it's been done on this car, so there are all the letters there. And the @ symbol or ampersand symbol and the YouTube decal, so it's all there. And a line. Now, what's the line for? Okay, the line is a guideline. Oh no, sorry, it's the rear. Sorry, it's the rear lip spoiler. I forgot about that. But I do use lines. I do use guidelines when I'm doing text. If I've got to do text on a surface that I'm not quite sure that my eye is going to be able to get it accurately enough, not perfect, but accurately enough, then I will use guidelines, particularly on number plates when I've got to do lots of letters and I need to make them fit. I will use guidelines, but I don't think I did with these letters. I don't think they're all exactly the same. And I kind of had a guideline there in that section anyway. Above the number plate, where you've only got that particular section where you can put the letters. But the letters are really simple. If I want to add a letter, I just go to add a layer. It's rear, 'cause that's where we are. Select the decal, and here is your letters. Not these here. Select it and pick your letter. Iflowboy is obviously my channel ID, so I would be the letter I'd pick. Now, it comes in a standard size, as you can see. Apply the same principles to moving the letters as you do to all the other objects. L1 if you want to keep the width the same, or if you don't, if you just want to shrink it, you just pull it down and it'll shrink both in width and in height. But if I wanted to keep the That's about where it was, I think. If I want to keep the width but not the height, I hold the L1 button and I pull down. And it's making it shorter but not narrower. And then I can push it to the left if I want to make it narrower. Alright, and then it's just a case of moving it with your left joystick, getting it to where you want, and then adjusting it down to the correct size. So I'm going to shrink it down, L1 happening, at about the same height, roughly, close enough, and then right joystick pushing left while holding the L1 button. Bang, and I get my letter. Alright, you might say, oh, yeah, well, that was easy, it's just a straight I. Okay, well, we'll do another one. We'll do a, I don't know, you want an F or a W? Let's try the F. It's a bit trickier, I guess. Now, I'm used to doing this, so I can do it very fast. And that's probably a good example of how fast I can do it. So you can see, I'm not yet right there, but I was able to get very close very quickly. So there's the F, almost perfect in the size. And away you go. It's not exactly perfect. If I see a bit of green at the top there and a bit of green on the inside there, but it's close enough. And then just keep going. The decal YouTube is just a decal that you find in the Discover section. And I think I've got somebody back on the broadcast. Can you hear me? Can you please type me a quick message to say hi if you can hear me? It's Iflowboy here, just talking about livery and livery design. And I'm talking about this vehicle being a very early design and how simple it is and how simple it was to do, so that even if you're new at doing livery design, you can have the courage or be adventurous enough or be willing to have the fun in trying to do it. So I'm just showing all the different, limited techniques that I did on this car. Basically that's everything with this car. I'm not going to fix it, but the one thing I will say is about my early design. What do you notice when you look at the rear of that car? Well, very quickly you can notice that it's not centrally aligned. The Iflowboy starts at the inside of that rear tail light, and the YouTube sign finishes near the edge of the right side tail light. So my alignment was terrible, and there's some of the things that as you get better you pick up on and you realize. Now it would take me probably maybe a minute and a half for me to realign all that. I'm not going to do it now to waste your time, but suffice to say that's pretty much all of the elements around doing this livery. Now the only thing I haven't showed you, let me get out of here, is the paint section. So this is the paint all section. Now if I hit that, it's going to give me a message. Oh no, it doesn't, because it's not the original paint. My apologies. Alright, so now in this section is where you choose your base paint. So if I was going to change the paint color, these are all the, and I can just look at this here, so I can actually see how the different paints compare to the colors that I've got already on the car. Oh, that's pretty wild. Now I don't have to sit here and scroll through every single paint color. I can segment it out using this menu option here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to look at what's called real car paint. That's just going to show me, and these are real paint colors. That, for example, is a BMW paint color name, so is that one. Not sure about the Daytona Grey, that may be from another manufacturer, and not sure from that one either, and nor that one. But definitely there are genuine paint colors here. So you can, pick one that might. I've always loved that color. I'm not changing it, but I've always loved that color. Yeah, that's a nice color too. So that's that. If you're into fluorescent colors, here are all your fluorescent colors. Some of them are quite bright. It actually looks pretty good. Now, if I go back to all, and I get out of the special colours, I then come to the palette we were using all along, and I can likewise select every single colour that's here. So these are different colours to those that are in the special colours section. So you can see different colours. Different colours of green, yellows. Now, one tip is that during the game, the colours will appear slightly differently to what they appear on the screen, only slightly. They'll tend to be a little bit richer in their colour in the game. So, but that's the tool. Okay, so I've got to get out of this, and by hitting exit it will automatically remove all of that stuff. So if we were to come back, no. If we were to come back, we would see that original car again. And there it is, back in its original state. Actually, this car was a bit further along the journey of designing, and as you can see there, it's showing a black decal versus the red. Now you might look at that and go, wow, what is that? The giveaway is the front. I'll click decal so we can go and have a look. The giveaway is the front decal. And if you look down there in the corner, you'll see the word Porsche, bottom right on the red lip spoiler. So this car, this livery, is that word over and over and over again. You can see it there on the rear wheel arch. If you put your eyes in line with that glary white light and then go across to the right, you'll see the P, the O, the R, the S, the C, the H. And then above it you'll see the same, and above it you'll see the same, and above it you'll see the same. And you can see it there on the rear wing too, where I've done it in the white as well. And there's the bit about the number plate. I am what am I? Where I have a bit of fun. So the whole car is the word Porsche as a livery. Now, you might go, oh my god, that would take forever. And it did take a while, but not as long as you think. If you look here on the left hand side at the editable area or sections, you'll see the total number of decals used, which is 256. So there are still ones left, so I didn't use all of the decal capacity. And there's a fair bit of duplication that I did from right to left as well. So again, not as hard as it looks. The black is interesting. I didn't realise that I'd gone in and saved it in the black. Need to return it to its natural state, don't I? Oh, and the words are even in a different colour too. Interesting. Interesting. I'm trying to work out how I did that. Yeah, that's how it was originally. I don't recall changing it to black. Anyway. Nothing really to say, except you just basically had to start with a word somewhere. I think I started on the doors, is where I started, just here on the doors. Duplicate button, which you've already seen. Move the duplicated object down, align it. Oops. Move on, duplicate it again, duplicate, align, duplicate, align, duplicate, align, duplicate, align. That's what you do, you align it after you duplicate it. And you'll see there that it's not perfect because the words intertwine as the contour of the shape itself interplays, because the roof obviously starts off wider at the A pillars or at the front, and by the time it gets to the, in this case, B pillar, there is no, oh yeah, there is this B pillar, C pillar at the end of the rear window, it's a lot narrower, and so the words cross over. But I deliberately chose to leave it like that. Same at the tail of the car, same thing happened as I moved up, the angles, etc. So you get those naturally occurring crossovers, and it just breaks up a bit. Again, not complex, but it's effective to look at. So okay, now let's come forward to a recent design. Now, you can see there that that car and that car look very similar. Let me take you to this version first. And this is all part of the learning experience that you go through. Now, as you look at this, let me preview it so it stays static. As you look at it, I think it's fair to say that you'd reach the conclusion that this is not a livery that's finished, and it isn't. But I'm showing you this livery to talk about the livery design process. So this car started out, or is in fact, a chrome painted base car, which is a special paint. That paint there, that is what effectively the whole car is painted in. That's its base colour. All of the red I have added as decals, to the point that I have also done lines. If I go into decal, what you'll see here is there is no decal. This is the body, so that's where we're looking, and the crosshair is moving. There will not be a GTR logo sitting here at all. There shouldn't be, unless I've got one on the roof still. And if it's on the roof, then that's the only reason why it's still here. So far, no. There might be a GTR decal still sitting on the roof. A few decals, as you can see. Ah, there you go, that will be the roof. Oh no, where's that? Oh, okay. It was the roof. If I grab it, you'll see it'll come out. Yeah, there it is flashing. But I've moved it off the roof without deleting it in case I needed it at the time of doing the design. So that decal is the exact same decal as that decal there on the bonnet. Alright, so what I did was I placed them like so on the car whilst it was still chrome painted, and on the side, and then I proceeded to build all of the red colour around them using the decal editor, hence all of these. All of these is about trying to make the shape with the red paint around that object. And then when I finished it, all the red paint, I then went about highlighting the edges using the black lines that you can see, which should be up here somewhere. I think they're up here. Yeah, here you go. These lines here, these are all the edges. All the edges of the shapes, to make it look like it was a decal basically. But as I went on with it, I thought this seems like a really long and wrong way to do it and was taking me forever. So I stopped, and what I decided was I was better off just using the actual decals themselves and excuse me, sorry, and doing it a different way. And so this is what I ended up with, and I think it looks better. A preview. So now what you see is the base coat is more prominent, the chrome, and I just went with the logos. I thought, you know what, it didn't have the visual impact that I hoped it would have not using the logo. And so that will happen as well as you go through your design journey. You will put a lot of effort into a design, and to find out 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe even 4 hours into it, that the effort that you've put in isn't delivering the result that you want. It isn't giving you the visual look you want or the visual impact you were hoping for, that it wasn't going to be as unique as you hoped it would be. And you'll go, you know what, I'm better off acknowledging that now and accepting it, and stopping and starting anew or going in a different direction to help you get to the end result of completing your livery. And that's what I did with this one here. Now, in terms of the techniques, are there more intricate techniques involved here? Yes, there are. For example, there's getting the alignment right of lines like this and getting it right. There's doing the wheel arch like that and getting that right. Now, it's not perfectly symmetrical, but to look at, you think, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. How'd you do that? Not that complicated. If we go into decal, and I go to, I'm in body section, somewhere I need to be, and what I'm looking for is some circles. Some circle decals. Okay, that looks like one of them at the, where's that? Other side. That's the front right, and that's the rear right. So these two will be the front left and rear left. So we'll go to front left because that's what we're talking about. So it looks cool, but all it is a circle that I started. And let me add another one. Let's just add another one for the sake of it. Add a layer above. So you got these options: add a layer below, add a layer above. So we'll add a layer above. It'll be left because that's where we want to go. We'll go into the shapes, and there it is, the circle. Now I'm going to leave it as, what colour will I make it? Let's make it green for the sake of the argument. Green it is, so it stands out. Alright, move it over, place it. Now, sorry, let me get closer so you can see. So you can see that it's kind of hidden behind the tyre now. So what I'm just doing is quickly getting it about in line with the wheel. It's about there. Now I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to make it go bigger by just doing nothing but grabbing my right joystick and pulling it to the right, and all of a sudden you'll see it appear. There it is. Okay, so now I'm going to bring it back down to a size. I'm going to bring it down a bit lower, expand it out a bit more. Now, I may need to deform the circular shape depending on the shape of the wheel arch. In this case I don't. You can see that I've pretty much matched the blue inner ring around the tyre or on the wheel arch. And that's it, I'm done. Now you go, okay, well that wasn't very hard. No, it wasn't very hard, but it took me a while to realise how I could do that. And it took me a bit of time to realise how to be good at manipulating the shape. And when this is an easy wheel arch because it's perfectly circular. If I was doing this for a Lamborghini Diablo, I'd have another challenge because that doesn't have a perfectly shaped wheel arch, as an example. Now, if I need to duplicate that to get my second ring, or maybe I want to shrink that in a bit because I don't want it to be that big in this case, maybe I want it that width, but you can see there's some blue bits. So L1 button, pull it to the right, it's going to pull the shape out a bit to do that for you without moving the top. The top didn't move, if you didn't notice. Let me just move it back in. Oh, it moved, but very little. I've just gone way more than I needed to. But it's effectively not moving much at all. I'm just making the shape, the circle, become more oval-like, I guess, effectively. Now, I've got two rings there, so the best way to do this is to make the bigger ring first. So let's push it out and cover the green ring. Cover the white ring. Bring that in a bit because that looks a bit awkward. Okay. Oops. So I'm just adjusting here, folks. Alright, so there's my green ring. Now, to make the inner ring, the easiest way to do it is to hit OK. Whoops, sorry, my bad. Hit duplicate, and then with your right joystick, just pull it down once or twice very quickly, like short pulls. 1, 2 is all you need. Then hit OK. Go into your colour palette. Pick a different colour, I don't know. Let's go with a yellow. Yellow. Alright, and there's my inner ring done. And I can adjust that if I want it thinner. Just pull it down, make it thinner. If I want it thicker, make it wider, and only have a little small green one. And I'm done. So again, not hard. The trickiest thing to do is really lines on concave or convex surfaces as they are on the car. So for example, this front area of this GTR, where those lines come down at the side there, because of the contour of the shape, if I come around to the side you can see it's concave, it's not flat. The games sometimes struggle with you doing those. Just noticed something interesting. Okay. Yeah. So they're trickier to do, but not impossible. It just, the key to doing those is patience and little adjustments, effectively. The rest of the car, that's over these louvers here on the front bonnet. Not that hard to do, just a bit of alignment required to get that right. What else? Windows, going around the windows again, that can sometimes be tricky, just patience doing that, but using effectively the fundamental moves or controls that I've already talked about. Likewise, rear boots as they come over the lip to the rear part of the car, that can sometimes be tricky, but again it just takes patience and thinking about making use of the different objects to achieve the task. You might find that a curved line is the best way to do it, or that a half circle object, or even less than a half circle object, might be the better way to do it, and you underlay it on a layer so that you don't get all of that object being seen. There's lots of different ways you can do it, and you just, over time, you just build up your skill and your ability, and you learn new things, and once you learn them, you have them to use for every new design you do. Yeah, look, I'm not saying this is my best delivery at all, but I'm showing it to you because of all the different techniques that I've had to use to do it. Alright. What else do I want to say? I think that is essentially all that I wanted to say. You know, that's quite a recent livery. You know, the more recent liveries, I tend to, and you'll find this yourself, I think, as well, that once you start, you will tend to challenge yourself. You will tend to want to try and do more complex things. You know, that was all done manually. That's not a wrap, it's a grid that I did manually. The lines, 3 separate sets of lines there. It's not just one continuous line for all the parts. In fact, I probably should put the little white line there too, shouldn't I? This is a problem when you go back and you look at your cars. you're bound to find you're bound to find that there's something that you could have done or added that you haven't. So, because I'm a bit of a stickler, there must have been a reason why I thought I wouldn't do it. I don't know what that would have been though, to be honest. Maybe I got distracted by something else going on and I jumped out of the game, or I fell asleep and forgot that I hadn't done it. So, you know, I want to talk about just, you know, taking your time. Yeah, that's a bit narrower. That looks a bit better, I think. Yeah. So I'm guessing it's not on the other side either. But it is now. Yep, good. No, it's not on the front here either. Alright, so I'm going to go back to this one because I might as well duplicate it on both sides all the way to the front. Now, because I already got the width right, I'm going to duplicate it, drag it to the front. It should appear, there it is. I'll move across, move it down to get my alignment right, and then I'm going to lengthen it and hope that it doesn't. Yes, it's already twisted a bit. Alright, now duplicate on reverse. We're done. Alright, so you know, shapes like here in this bonnet, they're tricky to do, those kind of apertures, getting your edges and colours and everything to line up and not be messy. But you've got techniques. One of the things I haven't shown you with the tool is this projection area tool. So what the projection area tool allows you to do is when you have tricky edges and the object that you're using, whether it be a straight line or a circle or whatever, slightly protrudes over that area, this section here can later remove it. Now I'm not going to apply it, but basically it's both of them have slider bars, and the negative means you're reducing, the positive means you're increasing the projection area. So to remove those edges, you've got to use a combination of either or all of these, depending on which one you're trying to deal with. One is depth and one is angle, so that's how you understand the difference between the two. And I use that all the time now, and I'm pretty good at using it and understanding what I need to do and where I need to do it, and even at what level I need to get to fix the issue or correct the issue I'm trying to fix. Correct. So yeah, so you know, the designs can get more complex as you go, but the reward is that you come up with designs that are definitely absolutely unique. Yeah, this car wins quite a few awards. Just I think it's a combination of that colour, which is a beautiful colour in the light, as you can see there, and the use of the decals. You know, I've done a few replica race cars, but most of the race cars I come up with my own livery. But I hope that today's broadcast and today's session will give you some confidence to try and create liveries instead of downloading them, that you'll be satisfied that you take smaller steps at the start and don't expect to be able to create very complex liveries. There you go, prove my point. That's way more symmetrical, the sign, and so, as I said, it's a progression. You get better and you get better the more that you do. You learn more the more that you do. You get more ideas the more that you do. You know what things work and what don't. You know what colours go together. There's so many things that just come from the experience of doing it. So if I look at my designs and the fact that, you know, if I go into a car show, I probably have about I don't know, somewhere between 30% and 50% success rate each round on each brand or model or category. of being picked in the top 3. The reason for that is that I've done 256 liveries, and in the process of doing 256 liveries I've spent thousands of hours. So of course I'm going to have the benefit of experience of doing things better than I used to do them, and people obviously liking and acknowledging the benefit of that gained wisdom and me applying it to the livery designs that I show. The only other thing to add to that is that no matter how good I get and no matter how nice I think the designs are, some people are not going to like them, and people judging them are going to have various levels of knowledge and understanding as well. Hence my comments earlier about, people putting in a vehicle that's just been painted that might have just been the standard paint they got from Brand Central, maybe even the same wheels, and wondering why they don't win a prize, or those that judge them wondering, people that have done liveries, make comments about why they gave that particular car an award against so many other cars that looked better and had, very complex liveries applied to them in achieving that better. As I said, it is about enhancing the vehicle. I'm sorry, but very few what they term clean cars, which is just the paint and wheels, no livery whatsoever, no decals, no nothing, will hardly ever, if ever, beat the same car that's got a livery applied to it, because the liveries do enhance the look of the car. They can accentuate things. Like this bonnet accentuates the fairly radical shape. It's a race car, but it's still a radical shape, but it enhances it because it highlights it. The extra flared guards, because this is a race car, you can see the actual car really isn't much wider than the end of that headlight, but this car, for its category of racing, has these extended wheel arches. So again, the design that's been implemented is about highlighting and enhancing it, giving it more visual cue or appeal or focus or emphasis. So that's the whole point of livery design. Okay, I'm going to end there. What I will do is my next broadcast, what I've been threatening to do it, is actually start from the beginning and go through each of the liveries in a series of broadcasts. So I might do that over the coming week. I might kick off maybe tomorrow night or the next night and just start from scratch. So going I do want to save it because I made changes, nothing that was it's going to take a little while, but that's okay. Going through each livery from the start, I've been thinking about if I was going to do it, how would I do it, and what would be the easiest way for me to keep track so that I don't double back or duplicate. And I think now that I have had a chance to think about it and I've done what I've done today, I think the best way to do it is to do it from the start. So so that's what I'll do. I'll start from scratch. I'll go back to the earliest vehicles, and I'll do it in the order that I acquired the vehicles, which may not necessarily be the order that I did the livery, but it definitely will be a constant order of reference for me to go through all the designs. And it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, how I, the correlation between when I acquired the car and when I did the livery. Not that I'll be able to recall it exactly, but I'll be able to give a bit of an idea as to whether I did the livery straight away or not. The vehicles that I bought, I know I will have done the livery straight away because that was the reason why I bought them. The cars that are gift cars, then generally speaking, they're going to most likely have different times of when I acquired them versus when I did delivery, so there won't be a consistency there regarding that correlation. Then the other thing I'll do is I'll talk about Scape's photos. I do get quite a lot of comments around the photos because, like I said, I do not share the liveries, but I do share the images. So I'm going into Scape's photos now just quickly because I will do some broadcasts around this as well. But I tend to get a reasonable number of comments about not just the vehicle liveries but also the photos themselves that I do. So this is just going to show the most recent photos of the most recent cars that I've done. Okay, so this is, somebody's commented on that, so he's saying impressive design. You haven't seen this car because I haven't shown you it, but I'll just go into a preview of that picture so you get a better look at it. So that's it's a particular STI, it's a special model STI, it's the Time Attack one, I believe. Yeah, and that colour is actually the standard colour that car came in when I think I can't recall. Anyway, that's that car. So if I go back, cool photo. So cool design. Now, having said what I just said, nice picture, beautiful shot. Beautiful design. I'm trying to find, just my luck, when I go looking I can't find. That's the car we're looking at, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Cool design, cool livery. Oh, that's the Mazda. That was a gift car from memory. I don't remember buying that car, but because it was a kind of unique car, I thought I'll do a livery, and I just looked at the shape of it. And to me, if I preview that picture for you, this car just looks like a snake. Like a snake's head. I don't know if you can make it out, but as I look at that photo, and I look at the way those guards are formed in that circular shape and the way it comes in at the front, I just saw a snake's head. That's what I saw. And so the design and the livery just follow that, basically. From the other angles it doesn't look like it's sort of trying to portray any sort of snake-like image, but from that front, from the looking down, that's exactly what I saw. So anyway, that's that. Yeah, so I'll do another, there you go, beautiful photo. I'll do another session or series of sessions talking about taking the photos themselves. Again, it's not hard, there's not a lot of rocket science in there, but beautiful photo, there you go. Yeah, so I get quite a lot of comments about the photos. I'd like to get more, so in reaching the end of this broadcast, for those of you that have watched, I hope you found it interesting. I'm always interested in comments. Please subscribe to my channel. Again, The goal around subscriptions is the more people that watch my channel, the more chance that I will get resources to do more and move outside of just doing the gaming, which is Minecraft and Gran Turismo, both of which I play on PlayStation 4. That's not a plug for Sony. I'm just letting you know that I don't do PC games on my channel. It's all PlayStation, and that's just purely for ease of using this, the tools. Again, if I get more subscriptions, more subscribers, then maybe I can venture further down the PC-based gaming path as well, particularly with Minecraft, because I know there's a lot more automation and animation that can be done in the game on the PCs versus the PlayStation versions, and I understand the reasons why. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. It's been a longer broadcast, I know, but I hope that as you watch it, you do find it worthwhile. I hope for those people that watch it are encouraged to go and do their own livery design, so that when you go out and enter into car shows, I don't know if there's even a car show going on, let's have a look. There may be this time of day on a Sunday. That's one Corvette I haven't got yet. Oh no, I have got that one. I haven't got the special racing version. Yeah, so that you can go into a car show and know that when you drive into that car show, whether people like the design or not, you're going to like it because you created it and you created something you like. But you know that there's not. But you know that, and I'm just going to hit my steering wheel. I don't know how this is going to work while I'm doing the broadcast, but we'll soon see. Just to activate it. Sorry about that. But you'll know that it's your car, and you're never going to see another person driving around in that car. And one of the other great things about that is that if you enter a room like I'm about to enter, or if you enter a racing lobby, there is no doubt that you will get comments from people who will recognise, must be a bad connection into that room. That's okay, we'll go to another room. You'll recognise, or you'll be recognised for the effort that you put in. And that's exactly the room we want, that one right there. Even though there's only one car in it, we'll go there because it's the right type of room for me to talk about what I'm talking about. You will find that people will recognise your work, and it's very fulfilling. It's very satisfying to have people acknowledge what you've done, that what you thought was going to look good on a car and make it look better than just the standard factory version of that car in a particular colour paint, in a particular type of wheel style, was better. I'm pretty sure if this guy is out on the track and I jump in, even this car here, which is the newest one I've done, he's not on track by the look of it. I'll say hi, get his attention. No, I can't see his car on track, so I don't know whether he's turned the server on and gone to sleep, or he might be saving it or videoing it, who knows. So this is that car that I showed you the photos of in Scape's photos, and it's a nighttime room, so that's never great when it comes to looking at the car from the outside, especially because I can't turn my lights off because it's nighttime. But yeah, I'm sure that if somebody else comes out on track, or if they're already watching, they'll be looking at the car and looking at what I'm doing, but also looking at the car and looking at the livery and going, oh, okay, that's different. Might be saying it's good, might be saying it's ugly, might be saying, oh, I like how they made that work, even if they don't like the colours. They might like the the technique that's behind the design, and you'll get comments. Right, let's go for a Fang. I don't know what this car's like to drive. I haven't spent a lot of time in WRXs. Even though it's saying 103 Ks, most of that's just driving up and down to car shows. Yeah, a bit of front-wheel drive understeer for sure. I do have issues with my pedal set at the moment. My throttle is sticking and sometimes the brakes are not giving me full braking power. At the moment they're good, but very long first gear, 90 Ks, man, for a little car. Just fight the understeer, as they say. But it seems to be quite... keeping that rev limiter a lot. It's not good, is it? It means the gearing is not spaced very well. This corner up here is a tester corner, because if you can't get through here, it's well balanced. So this is a well balanced little car by the look of it. I've only driven one WRX in real life on a track about, jeepers, maybe 10 years ago now. And it was modified WRX, one of the earlier ones, but a modified one. And I remember thinking that even though it had understeer, which you couldn't get away with even on track tyres, otherwise the car was remarkably well balanced and remarkably well behaved. Got to trail brake a lot there to keep it on. But yeah, the change of direction is... yeah, it's the understeer there, I couldn't get away from that. Just ran out of grab at the front end. Anyway, nobody's come around yet, but when they do, I expect that... Yeah, I'm trail braking a lot here to offset the understeer, and even then I can't do it. I'm not a huge fan of all-wheel drive cars or front-wheel drive cars. Because of that fact, I much prefer a vehicle that will step out on me and that I need to control under the throttle. Pitching understeer. Even there, because you can't get the power down. That's the other thing. Got a bit shallow through there. It's probably not the car's fault or my fault. There's not a lot of cars that can go through there flat out, so now I'm in trouble. Turned in too late. That's me, not the car. Don't want to criticise the car for everything if I make a mistake. So a bit of a cruise going on. I'm hoping that they get to the straight, which they will before I get to them, so that... pull in. Already been bedded. So that's that. Oh, sorry, mister. Exiting out. Room filled up pretty quick. Hey, look, I might end the broadcast there. hope you have enjoyed it. Always welcome in the feedback. Way too hot. See, I can just control it so much easier on the throttle here. Another one with the rev limiter. I'm still flying lap before I end the broadcast and see what we can do in this baby. Obviously a lot faster. See, I can get off the throttle, I can just... to adjust the diff on this, listening to the way it's behaving. Yeah, see, look at that. So it was a bit. Being mid-engine under acceleration has a fairly significant weight shift to the rear. A little better there. And so sometimes, like then, it will balk initially under acceleration. Can't get rid of that, haven't I? It's annoying. Can do about a 53 in this car if I'm doing it cleanly. Alright folks, well, thank you for watching. We're going to end the broadcast now and look forward to seeing you again next time.